Good morning. Welcome to Reading the Science of Mind in 1 Year. I am Reverend Rafe Ellis, Senior Minister and Spiritual Leader of the Center for Spiritual Living Common Ground. Today is May 16th. And so, what we do here is we listen to the selection for the day being read, and then we share whatever perspectives come alive in us at this moment. It's not prescripted, it's not pre studied. It really is allowing ourselves to be aware of infinite intelligence expressing in us, as us, through us, in the moment. And so um, then we do a 5 minute meditative practice where we simply practice being present with what is, not trying to make anything happen, not trying to prevent anything from happening, just being present. And then we wrap it up with a spiritual mind treatment, also sometimes known as affirmative prayer. So here we go. Ready?
Reading for May 16th, Science of Mind, A Philosophy of Faith, A Way of Life by Ernest Holmes. Reading from page 454, paragraph 2, through page 456, paragraph 2, using inclusive language.
Who would save their life shall lose it, based on Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 through 27. This is another of those mystical sayings of Jesus, which must be carefully considered before accepting it. Does God demand that we give up everything if we are to enter into the kingdom of heaven? Of course not. To suppose that God wills us to be limited is to contradict the divine nature. God's only will is to be, and for all to be. For God can conceive of people only as part of itself. It must be, then, that what we are to lose is the sense of living apart from life. We find ourselves in the divine idea, immersed in the infinite Godhead, one with the perfect whole. But should we think that we, of ourselves, without this relationship rightly established, can be or can express, then we cut the cord that binds us to the main power line and lose what little power we have. We are powerful only as we unite with power. We are weak when we desert this power, not because God is jealous, but because this is the way things work. The idea of a false renunciation, of giving up all pleasure and benefit in this life, is not even suggested in the teachings of Jesus. Self-effacement, the neglect of the body, the belief that we must be unhappy and poor in order to serve the truth, all these are immature ideas which deny the divine right of the soul, the incarnated Spirit of the Most High within us. When we are willing to lose a personal sense of responsibility, when we let go of the thought of isolation and claim a real unity with God, then we lose the personal and find the universal. But remember, as the greater always includes the lesser, so the universal always includes the personal, which is a personification of itself. We are to lose the small estimate of ourselves, the isolated person, and are to find the greater reality, the incarnated and real ego. The image of the Father cannot be defaced, nor can all the wit or the sham of people really obliterate this image. The eternal light is God, and this light illumines the path of the personal when there are no obstructions. Who leans on the truth, throwing all with an undivided attention on the scales of reality, will find them balanced rightly through the great law of compensation, which weighs and measures everything exactly as it is. Fasting and prayer, Matthew 17:21. We are not to suppose that the physical act of fasting or the metaphysical act of prayer can move the throne of grace to a kindness which is otherwise withheld. God plays no favorites, and the law of the universe cannot reverse its own nature. Fasting and prayer often do bring our thought closer to reality, but not because of fasting or the prayer, but because they open up greater fields of receptivity in our minds. If we wish to embody an idea and are willing to give up all else to attain it, then we are fasting and praying. We are sublimating an old idea with a new and a better one. If we are willing to abstain from the old and cling to the new, then we are giving greater reality to the new, and in this way contacting the law from a more affirmative angle. A steadfast determination to attain some purpose, the letting go of all that opposes it, a complete reliance upon the law of good, and an unqualified trust in spirit. This is true fasting and real prayer. The scientist, in profound thought and meditation before their problem, deserting all to solve it, is praying a true prayer to the principle of their science. The poet, waiting in the silence of their own soul for inspiration, is praying that they may invoke the spirit of poetry to their listening ear. The sculptor, chiseling at their marble, contemplating the beauty to be brought forth, prays to their God of art, and the farmer, kneeling beside their cabbage patch, trusts in the natural law of good to bring their seed to harvest. We live in a fasting and praying world, but often we do not read the signs aright. We are too used to the outward sign to realize its inward significance. The world is much better than it knows or feels itself to be. Healing the lunatic, Matthew chapter 17, verses 14 through 19. What majesty and might do we see in the calm words of Jesus? Quote, "Bring him hither to me." End quote. No doubt is here. No sense of approaching failure, no lack of trust in the perfect law which governs all. Quote, "And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him." Surely this lesson should teach us that evil is but an obsession and, from the standpoint of eternal reality, a complete illusion. Could we cast out evil from our thought if evil were a real entity or had real power? The answer is self-evident. We could not. Evil flees before reality, and to the mind which knows it, evil is not.
Ooh, okay. There's a whole class in this reading. We're going to try to condense it here. The first thing that popped out for me is that very first one, two, three paragraphs that we read is, as humans, change is often experienced as giving something up. We tend to focus on what we're giving up in the process of change rather than on what we're getting, right? Especially if it's internal, like the whole reading suggests that we shift our focus from the external stuff to the internal being. Um, it can be a really interesting journey. One of the things that spirituality and metaphysics in general has given me is a whole different perspective on change. Um, I don't give up anything. I just simply change my focus. Right? The idea that somehow I have sacrificed self-harm. I've sacrificed being miserable. Like I actually lost something in order to experience happiness and peace and serenity is now just so odd it makes me laugh. And there was a time that because I equated my whole sense of self to my externalized life, that I really was confused about how that works. And I thought that giving up stuff, giving up ideas meant I was giving up a part of me rather than simply shifting to a different understanding and a different experience of me. Um, I really like this paragraph. Um, when we are willing to lose a personal sense of responsibility, when we let go of the thought of isolation and claim a real unity with God, then we lose the personal and find the universal. But remember, as the greater always includes the lesser, so the universe always includes the personal, which is a personification of itself. See, that for me brings this thing to that inclusion, to a perfect inclusion, and reminds me that I couldn't be separate from creation if I tried. I can only create an experience of separation. I can't actually separate myself. And the beauty of recognizing that is to understand that whenever I find myself in that pain of separation, just like that, I can correct it. Just like that. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn out, painful process that I can simply, oh, I am and always have been unified with the whole. And instantly I am back, and nothing has been lost, simply rightly understood, correctly understood. And I love the reference that it goes on, the incarnated and real ego. If we were to go to the glossary, we would find that Holmes defines the ego as the perfect being, the I am of the Bible, because we are creation, God, consciousness, whatever word works for you, in physical form. That's our ego. We have like shifted our collective consciousness to view the ego as something that we need to assassinate, right? Something that's in the way. And it's not, it's our misunderstanding of it that is in the way, that skews our experience of being human. Our ego is simply the divine expressing in physical form. Pride, all of the things that we attribute to ego, having our own way, blah, 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 all of that really boils down to the idea that we are separate from Source. And so I invite you to stop ego bashing yourself or anyone else and speak about it in terms of, oh, we've slipped into separation thinking. Because then it's as simple as remembering that there's only one of us here and we're all it expressing in physical form. And instantly, we're back. Just like that. Doesn't have to be hard. Um, the first part under fasting and prayer reminds me that we don't, in our form of prayer, we're not beseeching God. We're not trying to appease an angry God or trying to get God to do something for us. We're remembering that we are one with, that we are an idea of it expressing in form. And so we already are everything that we're seeking. There's nothing outside of me. And when I align myself with it, then there it is. Um, I love the third paragraph under fasting and prayer. A steadfast determination to attain some purpose, the letting go of all that opposes it, a complete reliance upon the law of good, and an unqualified trust in spirit. This is true fasting and real prayer. Fasting being letting go of all that opposes it. Fasting in it's mental fasting, right? Fasting is abstaining from something, right? Typically, it's talking about food. And imagine fasting every day by abstaining from thought that opposes the truth of being. That in and of itself would solve a world of problems, would it not? If we just stop giving the illusion of opposition energy. Ernest Holmes taught denials in spiritual mind treatment. Right? Because sometimes those thoughts of opposition are very deep within the collective consciousness. They've been there for many, many generations of people thinking it. And when we experience it, we just kind of grow up with it as this is just how it is. Only it's not. It's just how we've been taught that it is. And thinking it makes it so. And so when we fast from that thinking, when we stop energizing it and start energizing what is true, shift happens in beautiful ways in our life and in our world. We are too used to the outward sign of to realize its inward significance. The world is much better than it knows or feels itself to be. Change happens from the inside out. I believe it was Gandhi who invited us to be the change that we wish to see. All too often we get confused trying to change someone else's behavior without realizing that even the idea of that, right, is to delve into separation, to create more separation. Because now I've separated myself from the behavior, from the behavior. And we throw away our power to be a part of the mental healing of the beliefs, of the very thoughts that are showing up as that behavior. And so I invite us all to move that awareness back inward and to remember that change happens from the inside out. And we may never sit under the tree we plant the seed of. Plant the seeds anyway, even if we will never sit in the shade of that tree. Plant the seeds. Because what we're doing when we do that is shifting the collective consciousness that the next generation will be growing up with, going, this is just the way it is. And imagine the shifts that will happen in our world when that consciousness that is talked about is, well, this is just the way life is alignment, is peace, is love, is the harmonious operation of one. We each participate in making that so every time we align with that within ourselves. That's the power we have. Let's use it. And with that, I am complete. And so let's go into our take all of that, whatever you heard from that, whatever resonated with you. Let's take that into our 5-minute meditative practice. Here we go. One life, one peace, one love, one power everywhere present, one substance, consciousness itself, nameless, changeless, infinite. It is omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. It is diversity. It is creation. It is all that is seen and unseen, all that is known and unknown, all that is experienced and yet to be experienced. Infinite possibility. And while it is nameless because it cannot be limited by a name, we know it by many names. We reference it by many names. God, Buddha, Allah, Great Spirit, the Great Mystery, nature, the quantum field, consciousness, reality. And it is each of these names and so much more, never bound by our human concept of it. Limitless, infinite intelligence, unlimited abundance. All of this is the very nature and makeup of my being, because it is the substance of creation from which I am wonderfully, magnificently made. Made in the image and likeness of the thing itself, made out of the thing itself. To be, to remember, to express the thing itself. And what is true of me in the truth of one substance must be equally true of every expression of it. Each and every expression, an intentional, on purpose, one of a kind, never to be repeated, divine idea, divine desire of this one to experience itself as each expression of itself in creation. And in that wholeness of one, every expression is unified within the whole, in a unity that defies uniformity on purpose. And so I claim and affirm that shift in awareness, that awakening to the truth of being that no longer needs that juxtaposition of opposites to feel its place in the world. That there is a fasting of all thoughts of opposition until the very taste for it, the very desire of it ceases to be. And that we live, move, and have our being collectively in, through, and as the awareness of one. That everywhere I look, I see the infinite expressing itself. That every thought I have aligns with the truth of one. Whole, complete, and perfect one. That my thoughts return over and over again to knowing the truth of the harmonious operation of one. 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 And I am grateful. I am grateful for the reality of creation. Grateful for the activity of law. The doer that simply responds, yes. Yes, my beloved, yes. Because it is responding to itself, in alignment with itself. Always yes. And so I know that the word spoken, the infinite speaking itself into being as me, through me, has already made it so. Made it so before the words were formed and spoken. Made it so at the very desire of it. And so I can let go. I can truly fast from every thought that would in any way impede my full experience of the word made manifest in this physical life. And so I let go. I release. And I stand, arms, heart, mind, eyes, ears wide open to experience the full, unlimited manifestation of life. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amin. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.